I'm Liz Brown Swanson, and welcome to RPV City Talk from the beautiful Terranea Resort in Rancho Palos Verdes. I'm with the great mayor of Rancho Palos Verdes, Mayor John Cruikshank, for the mayor's monthly update where we find out about everything happening in our city. But let's start off with, how are you?
No, I'm really good, Liz. Actually, the sun's starting to come out now, and I know all our residents are looking forward to a great summer, so I'm doing great.
Yes, it's always beautiful here. I know you just had your mayor's breakfast. Every month you get together with the commissions, chair, volunteers in our community. How'd that go?
Like always, very informative. Always love learning about what's going on in our many committees and our planning commission as well. Of course, we've got a lot of interviews to do because every one of those committees and the planning commission have opportunities for our residents to serve. And so we're even going to have a special meeting because there's so many applicants. I understand there's more than at least 35, maybe more, that want to come and participate.
Of course, well, we encourage that, and that's what we love about our community because we are RPV together. Of course, the big news that's been going on for months is what's happening with the Portuguese Bend landslide complex area, with the accelerated land movement, thankfully slowing down as the rains have slowed down. But just give us an overview right now of what's happening, the situation with the ongoing state of emergency and what the residents should understand about what we're doing to deal with the landslide right now.
Right. Well, and of course, it has stopped raining for the most part. We believe we're somewhat out of rainy season, knock on wood. But also a lot of those rains are still in our water table and they're still affecting the landslide complex. Our geologists have told us that the velocity has actually picked up more than 70% at this time over what it was in the past, and the rate of movement is as bad as it was when it first started back in the 1950s. So we're dealing with a very, very big complex problem, but we've got a lot of things that we're working toward to reduce the rate of movement.
I know the movement's up to like 6 to 9 inches per week, unprecedented, and the whole complex area itself, which is, we always talk about this each show just to give people an understanding. There's 3 general areas that we're referencing, right? Which is Portuguese Bend, Abalone Cove, and Klondike Canyon.
Right.
Right now, the city council is moving as fast and furiously to offer up some mitigation measures. 2 of them would be, of course, the emergency dewatering wells. Talk about what's happening with that process.
Sure. Well, like you mentioned, there's 3 primary landslide areas: the Klondike Canyon, Abalone Cove, and in the center of the Portuguese Bend landslide complex. And what you basically have is, if you look at the map, the northern end is the high part, and the ocean is the southern part. And so we want to put in 2 hydro augers. And the first hydro auger, the work is going to start at the end of June. Right now we're looking to do very deep 150-foot boreholes that will be able to help us confirm what we've put on our plans in terms of the model, where the water table is, where the bentonite is specifically. So when we start doing the hydro auger work down on the south end first at the beach area, we make sure that we capture as much water as possible when we put those hydro augers in.
Of course, the focus for so many in our community is the Palos Verdes Drive South, the impact that the landslide movement's having.
If anyone's driving there, and I know 16,000 cars a day are driving on Palos Verdes Drive South, you know that it's a very, very bumpy ride. We've got our famous ski jump there. Mm-hmm. We always warn people not to drive much faster than 10 or 15 miles an hour over that, but you still see a lot of divots in the road. So a lot of people that are unaware of that or don't think it's as serious end up probably damaging their car pretty well. So we encourage people to drive slow. And even we're looking at potentially closing it for bikers because it's becoming so unsafe,
right, because
of the large gaps in the road, the bumps. And like you mentioned, we just increased our budget. I want to say it's close to $700,000 or $800,000 we added to continue to repair Palos Verdes Drive South.
And I know the city's doing a great job whether on the listserv and just notifying our community about, be prepared for delays on that road. And I don't know whether in terms of upcoming closures plans, sometimes people have come up to me and said, is this going to be closed for a week at a time? And it's not at that point like this, right? Do we have any idea if it's going to be?
Right now, we have no plans for any type of like long-term or week or more shutting down the road. Our city is doing the best it can to keep the road open. Certainly there are delays. I've been stuck in many of those delays where you basically down to 1 lane and you've got the flag people that are bringing you through. So I ask people to give themselves a little more time when they're heading through the area, be patient.
Right.
Understand that it's a very precarious area, but you know, if everyone's patient and we keep that open, then that's going to be good for all of us, not just from Rancho Palos Verdes, but regionally, because there's a lot of people in San Pedro, Redondo Beach, and Torrance that use that road as well to get to and from home and work and that.
Including to get right here at Terranea
That's
Resort.
true.
It's the, you know,
That's true.
it's the main artery. And you know, you talk about all these people that are involved, whether it's, you know, the city staff, the road crews out there, geologists that's like trying, everyone's just doing the best they can to figure this out, because let's face it, we've got Mother Nature involved here as well.
Right.
Unpredictable, not sure, 500,000-year-old landslide that we're famous for, along with being famous for being one of the most beautiful cities in the world. But you know, you're dealing with a lot, and we are appreciative. What about with the trails right now? What can you update the community? Since all this has been happening, I think we still have 8 miles of trail closures in the preserve for safety reasons. So what can you share about the trail closures?
Well, those trails that are up, those 8 miles of trails that are primarily in the Del Cerro area, Portuguese Bend landslide, are still closed, and probably will remain closed until we get to a point where the landslide is slowed down in terms of the movement, and we can go back in and repair that, because it's not something you can just take a shovel and repair. Some of these fissures are 20, 30 feet deep. You need heavy construction equipment to repair these fissures, and so it's just not safe for people to be walking up in that area. So that's why we've closed the trails, and we hope people are heeding those warnings. There is a tiny bit of good news. The city actually opened the beach school trail to the public after the Abalone Cove landslide abatement district was able to complete their construction of one of the dewatering wells there. So slowly but surely things are going to start coming back to normal.
Right, and I know that our open space management team, along with the Land Conservancy that we contract with, are out there doing the best they can to deal with the trails and the habitat. And of course, you've got the utilities and the fire roads that are sustaining a lot of damage too in terms of that. So,
well, that's the primary thing, is that we're coming upon the fire season.
Yes.
And with the fire season comes the realization that we need to have a lot of these roads open for emergency vehicles, like you say. In terms of the evacuation, honestly, they don't really tell the city council members about evacuation routes, because they don't want people to like predetermine where they want to go. They want to actually give the proper instruction to people during an emergency.
right.
And so, but those trails are important, not just for maintenance, but for potential emergency operations.
As we continue to talk a little bit more about what's going on with the landslide, there's been a lot of concern about you know, having the city of Rolling Hills get involved with solutions because of the impact water coming down from the top of the hill has.
That's right.
What's happening with the negotiating and talking, I should say, between our two cities?
Right. So, well, I meet with all the mayors every month. We have a monthly lunch that we talk about issues, and of course, Portuguese Bend landslide is one of those issues that we always talk about. So the city of Rolling Hills, for those of you that don't know, they have a different structure than most city councils, because their city council actually doesn't control the infrastructure. They actually have an HOA that controls.
They have their community
so there's a Rolling
association.
Hills Homeowners Association, community association, that actually controls the infrastructure, which are the roads and the storm drains and that. So that decoupling of that function makes it a little more difficult. So now that's why, as you mentioned, we've formally invited them to participate. We want our residents to know that this is a team effort. It's not going to be solved just by the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, but we're going to need Rolling Hills to participate with us, because, as you mentioned, stormwater flows downward. They're at the top of the hill. Water is coming from their watershed areas as well, and so we need to work together.
And that whole city is on septic. I know that the city council did approve sending a letter inviting it's the Rolling Hills Homes Association and the council there to participate in a hydrology study, which will be really important to get a better understanding about water flow, like you said.
And both of the agencies have gotten back to us and say, yes, we want to participate and help out. Yep.
Of course, all this is costing a lot of money in trying to mitigate the slide. Can you talk a little bit more, give the residents understanding of the funding and how that's all coming together right now?
Sure. Well, right now, all of the money's coming out of the city's pockets. And the reason that is because we need to put these hydro-augers in outside of the main project that we had initially had planned and still is moving forward. That was the $35 million project. These two hydro-augers were part of that project, but because they're being done prior to the project being approved and initiated, and having the EIR certified and all that stuff, we've got to move forward with it. And so
Yes.
fortunately with the emergency that was declared by the governor and now by the president, that's allowed us to move forward with this work. And so that is all being paid for through the capital improvement budget and the city. We've been pledged $5 million from the Los Angeles County Supervisor's Office. And so the expectation is that that money will help defray some of that cost. Of course, good news for at least the abatement districts in regards to the federal disaster being declared. Those monies that those abatement districts and the Portuguese Bend Association have incurred based on all the rainwater during these storms, they're able to submit that money along with the city's funds, to the federal government for reimbursement. So that's being done, and the expectation is we will get reimbursed for that, which is good news.
Right.
And then on the private front, that what I just said doesn't necessarily help the private homeowners or the Wayfarers Chapel or others that have been affected, which is a private business. The SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, which is a federal agency, has now offered very low to no interest loans up to $500,000 for homeowners. And that period is, I believe, through sometime in the middle of July.
Right. We've got some deadlines here regarding that.
July 16th is the deadline. So people can reach the virtual health center now, Monday through Friday. I know you'll put that information up on your website, and we hope that people do that as quickly as possible to get reimbursed for the cost of damages to people's homes.
There is the Virtual Disaster Loan Outreach Center, which we will post the website and the phone number 916-735-1501 up there. And you can also email to find out about what you can qualify for. Like you said, at least when it comes to the landslide abatement districts, Klondike Canyon Abatement District and Abalone Cove, there's about 400 homeowners that are involved with those.
Right.
So there's people out there. We've mentioned in every show that at this point there's 2 red tagged homes in our city with all that's going on, but there's still damage being done to other homes. So that will be so helpful that they can do that. And also, you mentioned Wayfarers Chapel. I was going to move on to mention that we're all heartbroken what's been going on with the chapel's closure, which got announced back in February due to the accelerated movement impacting the property there. And that historic landmark in our city that means so much to so many. They did have a press conference. You were part of that. With the latest announcement is this chapel is going to have to be disassembled to save it. So I don't know if your thoughts on what's going on there and how the city's helping the Wayfarers team to deal with this unfortunate situation.
No, it's certainly unfortunate, and I was at that press conference. So the chapel, which we all know is made of redwood structural elements and of course a lot of glass, is now being disassembled. The city, of course, moved quickly to issue a demolition permit for them to start pulling tiles off and glass out and start disassembling it after they catalog where they go, because they want to ultimately rebuild this national historic structure that they're taking down. So the city also, I understand, is going to be providing some type of license agreement for Wayfarers to have their structure stored somewhere safely on one of the city facilities. And they need to keep the structure actually in this atmosphere because of the marine environment, because if you change with the redwood elements that are pulled out of there, if you put it into something hotter or cooler or less moist, then it's going to change it'll change that and possibly damage it. So they've got to keep those elements of the Wayfarers Chapel in an environment that's very similar to what they currently have. So
the good news is too that the chapel is contracting with preservationists that are going to be able to take this chapel apart in a way that it can maintain its historic landmark status, which it just received, ironically, at the end of December, right? So it did receive this national. It's so special being built by Frank Lloyd Wright's son Lloyd Wright, and for the Swedenborgian Ministry. So we're all there. Everybody, you can always go on the wayfarerschapel.org website as well to find out how you can help. But the fact that the city is really stepping up and partnering in this process.
Let me add to that too. Thank you for saying that. It is a private organization, and my understanding is that when this is all said and done, they might spend upward of $20 million to not just store, but then rebuild, not just the building itself, but the site. And so we're talking a big number, and of course, if there's any way people can help them,
Yep.
please do so.
We will hopefully will see it rise again.
We will.
Yes. We're going to continue talking a little bit about public safety. You had mentioned what's going on with wildfire season, which really we're in a high fire hazard severity zone in Rancho, all over LA County, right? So we're always on alert. What's your message to the community right now? We're dealing with brush clearance and all we can do to make sure we are ready.
Well, there's a few messages. Of course, you're right. We're getting into wildfire season. And I know that the brush clearance is occurring now. I know that EDCO is removing the green barrels, and they do the extra service of doing multiple green barrels if you have enough vegetation to do so. I highly recommend everyone make sure they take the time, because that time is quickly approaching, right? The beginning of June will be the cutoff for that. So we want to make sure that everyone has their proper brush clearance. If it's a couple 100 feet from any house structure, don't have tree branches up against your home, dead leaves and all the other things. We want to clear and make sure that you have your property is ready in case, God forbid, something does happen. We haven't had a wildfire in many years, and I don't believe we will have forever, hopefully.
Yes.
But the reality is you've got to be prepared for that. So I highly recommend people take care of their property.
Of course, we have the city's got the goats out right now doing our own brush clearance, which is really important for fuel modification.
Well, goats are the best. I mean, I always tell people if there's a political message and you want to make people smile, you talk about the goats. And there are 2 herds that are working right now and are clearing brush and weeds and all the other things that the goats do. And you know, of course, if you see the goats at a property, don't go up and try to pet them. No, they're doing their job, just like you don't want to come up and pet city employees.
Except for the mayor.
Well,
No.
you can give me a brush.
He'll
here on
take a
my arm.
pat on the shoulder.
A pat
You
on the
deserve
back
that.
and
You
it's a
deserve that. So we were talking a little bit about what's going on with public safety in the community. The quarterly crime statistics have been released. That happens with the Regional Law Committee for the Peninsula, because we contract, of course, with the Sheriff's Department for our city, Rolling Hills and Rolling Hills Estates. And the latest numbers are showing is crime actually overall declining a bit? Because I think burglaries had been up this quarter, but what's going on with crime?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, if you look at the numbers, I mean, the numbers have gone down, but of course, any crime is too much. And I would say let's never let our guard down. I mean, we every year we get a very great rating in terms of safest city in California, and that's because of the great work of our Sheriff's Department. But also we as residents, we need to continue to be vigilant. You hear many stories of people coming around the back of people's homes and, you know, coming through unlocked doors or smashing windows and coming through. And so I think people still need to be vigilant about that. Like, let's not ever let our guard down. That the people that come to our community and rob from us are smart. You know, this is their job, and unfortunately they're very good at it and they do it very quickly. And so I want to make sure people have their guard up. You know, this is vacation season.
Yep.
Make sure you lock everything, and our city does have the ring cameras
Yes.
that you can loan from the city to use at your property. So if you're going away and you want to use one of those ring cameras, you can contact City Hall, and I don't think there's any charge for that.
No. And as far as public safety goes, Captain Guerrero, she just had coffee with the captain. She got out there to meet with residents. They had it at Golden Cove Shopping Center, and a couple of the comments I heard residents make, their concern was speeding on the switchbacks and also burglaries and looking for tips. But what's your thoughts on some of the concerns from residents about the switchback speeding and issues like that?
I live very close to the switchbacks, and I can tell you that there is definitely speeding out there. We've asked our sheriffs to be out there even more, and I've seen a more visible presence, but they can't catch everyone. I would say for people that are out there speeding, this is very unsafe. I mean, why would you jeopardize yourself out
Right.
there? There's been accidents forever on the switchbacks. I know it's very tempting for people in hot rod cars and motorcycles to drive very fast, but you know, the rest of us are out there, and so please be
Right.
careful, and the sheriff's going to be out there even more, and they're issuing tickets and citations to people that are breaking the law.
Yes, and since we're talking about the Sheriff's Department, this is budget season, and the Sheriff's contract is up for renewal, and we're seeing rising costs for law enforcement. Do you have any comments on that? I think it's now exceeding, it's a 4% increase, it's $8 million plus, but it's a price you have to pay for your safety.
Well, you do, and everything's going up, unfortunately, and that includes personnel costs and the sheriff's costs, and 4% is basically what the CPI has been over the last year, and so I don't think the cost is unreasonable, but it's a big number of our budget. I mean, we have a $38 million budget, and $8 million of that is the sheriff's department, and it's worth every penny of it in regards to our safety, and we'd love to even have more, but our city can only afford so much, so we've got to continue to go through that. I know that the Sheriff's Department needs to negotiate that with us, and we need to make sure that we're getting the things that we need.
Exactly. Since we are talking about funding and budget season is upon us, how's the process going for fiscal year 24-25? What is the economic outlook and how our city's finances are doing right now?
Well, I'll tell you this right now. So like you mentioned earlier, I was just with the other committee chairs, and our Finance Advisory Committee chair, George Lewis, was there, and he was telling us, because he works in the private sector as a CPA and for private companies, and what he was saying was that when he came onto the Finance Advisory Committee, he thought that finding cost reductions and waste and government abuse and that sort of thing was going to be like shooting ducks in a barrel. And he said to me, and the whole group, he said, honestly, Rancho Palos Verdes is such a well-run finance department and so financially strong and solvent that he actually has been very impressed by how our finance department and our city is able to only spend money on things that are needed by our community, not just all the things we want. And so going back to the actual budget, we project things 10 years out, but we of course look at things as they're happening and then 1 year out for having a budget for next year. And we go through a very rigorous process. We have the Planning Commission make sure that what we're spending on meets the general plan of our city. We have the Finance Committee that goes through and makes sure that we're spending money properly. We have the capital improvement plan scrutinized by the Infrastructure Management Committee. And this is a group of 7 people that all walks of life but residents, and they go through that and they look at all the capital improvement projects that we have, and they do an amazing job. And then of course our city staff and the department heads go through it. So by the time the city council looks at those budgets, we might be tweaking things and maybe moving a few things here and there, but for the most part, it's always revenues are exceeding expenditures, and we're always very cautious about with the taxpayer dollar.
All right, especially the economic outlook is that things will be slowing down, and that we are still in a great situation financially. And
Yes.
that partially, of course, is definitely due to where we are right now at Terranea Resort.
Totally.
Because of the transient occupancy tax, known as the TOT, pouring into our coffers. Since they've opened 15 years ago now, I asked the finance director how much, $61 million.
Isn't that incredible?
That they've given to our
And that just comes from occupancy tax.
To our budget.
And Terranea in our city, we have one of the lowest occupancy tax rates around in California. It's not necessarily the rate, it's the quality of the product that Terranea puts out. This place is full of people because they love the product here. I mean, I know that you're seeing in this background, but anyone that's been to Terranea, there is something for everyone. I know that Liz and her husband Don, they love to go to the charcuterie.
Yes.
What is it called?
They have on Friday nights here. You have to look it up on the Terranea website, but they have lots of cool things. What's called Sips and Sunsets. On Friday night, you can come enjoy a sunset down by the spa area.
And a 20-foot charcuterie board
yes,
or something?
and the most beautiful charcuterie board, and all the treats you want to eat. And there's just you can come here and just walk the grounds, right? And
you could
enjoy
park
it.
for free if you wanted to.
Yes, absolutely.
You could walk for free. You can enjoy the grounds for free. But of course, we hope that people stop and maybe do a little bit more than the free, because we won't be making $61 million over 15 years.
I highly recommend a staycation. Come here and stay.
Or the day spa.
Yeah. What is your favorite thing to do here?
Well, okay, so we found a new thing. We go to Bocce, the
Yes.
restaurant.
Yum.
My wife and I found that New Year's Eve at Bocce is amazing because you're overlooking the pool where the kids and families are playing. You can see the sunset, Catalina, and the food is amazing. But honestly, I'll come here for anything. Like, there's so many things to do. Sundays now, they've got the slow cook Sunday.
Oh, I love that, the barbecue.
So you've got something for everyone
Good
here.
stuff. We've moved on from budget to talk about eating. I like that.
Well, we always do.
Yes, yes. We only have a few minutes left, and we still have a couple topics to cover. What I just want to highlight is that the council took some direction on Western Avenue with traffic flow there, and if you could just reference what's going on, because the city is very focused on Western Avenue and making it a better place for all.
Well, Western Avenue is an important part of our city, and we have a lot of residents on the east side that have endured a lot of traffic there. And and also our businesses, we want to make sure all of our businesses on Western Avenue thrive, and they thrive much better when people can move through there quickly with their cars and not be stuck in traffic. There's 13 signals, left turn pockets we're extending, changing signalization. The design work is underway, but we want to make life better for everyone. They've actually already done a timing synchronization, the initial one, and it's improved things by about 10%. But the design of that work is started. It should be done sometime about the first part of next year. Construction will start in the next couple, 2-3 years. We hope to see at least a 30% increase in the way traffic moves through Western Avenue, and that just makes everyone's lives better.
Right. I know that during your city council meeting, Public Works Director Ramsey Awad was asked about how this will truly impact the bottom line, which is how much longer or shorter will it take us to drive down Western. And already some of the measures they're saying, we're seeing like already a 1-minute reduction in the time, which is great.
I've noticed a difference. I don't know if you've been out there, but I drive the street a lot.
I'm on Western Ave all the time.
I was very happy the last time, and so I can only imagine if we can, triple the improvement in a couple of years, that'll make life better.
We have lots going on with the City Council. We were going to talk about, go on to our city's website and click on the City Council meetings. They always meet the first and third Tuesdays of the month, and go to rpvca.gov, and you can see all that's going on. Yeah. And what's really going to be exciting coming up is the mayor is going to be having his State of the City on June 21st at La Linda. So do you want to plug that and maybe what's going on there?
Well, and it's not just the mayor having the State of the City. I think what's more appropriate for Rancho Palos Verdes is for everyone that's in a leadership role to participate. So our city manager, Arl Morani, is going to have a very big speaking role. Mm-hmm. I've asked that our Mayor Pro Tem, Eric Alegria, him and I came into council together. Him and I are kind of partners in crime, if you will, in terms of just, seeing eye to eye on so many things and wanting to do the right thing for the city. So he's going to be there participating. Hopefully other council members are participating, and then department heads too.
Yes.
I think a true State of the City is not just the mayor telling what's going on, but I think the people that are making it happen and telling, and you hearing it from them means much more than me saying it, because all I'm doing is just regurgitating what they actually told me.
Right.
So hearing it from them and the people that make it happen is way more important. So my hope is that we can get a lot of people attending and see the beautiful La Linda Community Center and hear about the good and the bad in Rancho Palos Verdes. Well,
we're going to focus on all the good, especially the good here. Terranea is celebrating 15 years. They opened in June 2009. And so come on down here. One more thing, we have all the things that are going on in our city. We celebrate all these great things. National Public Works Week. Congrats to our Public Works team. And if you want to mention upcoming, mark your calendars, 4th of July, this guy's starting to practice eating his pie.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and it's not just Councilmember Bradley and I that eat pie. Well, I eat it less than 5 seconds. I don't know what goes on with him. He's got a beard and all that, so it takes him longer. But we allow everyone from the community, the kids, adults, come on out, teenagers. There's pie eating contests for everyone. And then we're doubling the number of drones this year. So last year's drone show was amazing.
So mark your calendars, 4th of July. You don't want to miss it, and it's coming around the corner. And any final mayor's announcements as we wrap it up?
I'd just say that I think people are still in good spirits. I mean, there's a lot going on in our city of Rancho Palos Verdes. And we have a lot of other communities around us that are concerned about what's going on and asking about helping. And so we're not alone in this issue with the landslide and others, things that are happening. But we've got a lot of great people that are working on these problems, and we're going to solve them. And just like we always do, and I want people to keep their spirits up and have a great summer.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor Cruikshank, for all you're doing for the community. As remember, we are RPV Together. I'm Liz Brown Swanson from the great Terranea Resort. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.